Good morning, everyone. It's Michele Maher here, and I'm joined with Anja Sajan. Thank you so much, Anja, for giving me your time to talk about what we've been dealing with and keeping a positive mindset and pivoting in your life and your business. So if you want to give us a few words about who you are and what you're all about.
Thank you so much, Michele, for having me on this. I know I've known you for a while, and it's just such an honor to be able to have a conversation, and especially in times like this, to connect with another human being and really share a lot of the positives that can happen, even though it sounds crazy. Anyway, sorry, I'm Anja Sajan, and I am a filmmaker, a shamanic practitioner, which is like a form of energy healing, as well as an internationally best-selling author and an artist and a poet. I am currently working on, I've just finished a rough draft of my manuscript that I'm turning into and adapting into a screenplay for my first feature film. I've had one film in a local film festival in 2016 called Emerging from Ice into Fire. It was a short film.
All right, very nice. And you, and so as we were talking before we got on camera here, we both kind of had the same experience when we first got shut down. I know that actually looking back in February was when I visited my supplier, because she deals directly with the factories in China who finish off the stainless steel and finish off the beads and everything, the stones that I am using in my creations. And she was, she was not going to be able to get any more products. So I went there to stock up on things. At that point in time, this was the third week of February, maybe, I don't think, even talking to her about what was happening over there, I didn't think it was really going to come here to the extent it did. I definitely didn't think that it was coming here. Then of course it went to Italy, and then my daughter was supposed to have her Europe trip in March break, and that got canceled like a week before, which was very sad, of course, for all the kids, but at the same time, even she didn't want to go over there with what was happening in Italy and get stuck over there. That would not be good. So I don't think any of us thought it was going to come to this extent to North America as it has. But so when, and I know that I did a photo shoot right before, and then for me, it was when they announced that the NBA was suspending the season that I thought, oh my God, what is happening? Because that, even though I'm not a sports, I don't really watch sports on a regular basis, I know that it's a very important part of so many people's lives. So I just felt that, and then of course all the negativity on social media, the empty grocery store shelves and the lack of toilet paper, it was all like, it felt like we were living in another movie, and I really felt the fears to come in, and I didn't want to stay there. I knew that, you could just go into this big black hole of fear and never get out. And it just snowballs, right? So that's why I started doing these, just to get out there and get a positive message and start sharing the, all the positivity, but also what we could do, right? So what was your experience was very similar at the beginning with the fear.
Yeah, the term shutdown you first used, that's absolutely appropriate, because energetically, all of us just shut down because we didn't want to feel this incredible terror that we were feeling. And I was feeling it. I know that it was almost like I was gobsmacked when what you were talking about with the NBA closing down. I knew it was serious when that happened. Like they would not, like there's billions of dollars or whatever that flow in and out of that. And there's a lot of very wealthy people that are tied into that, and they wouldn't shut it down unless something was really serious. So I was like, oh, wow, this is real. And that whole, I panic shopped a bit, and I did go into that sort of hole for a little while. Like,
I did that.
God.
I did that on Friday. So the Thursday they announced that, Friday I went to Costco.
I don't think I got toilet paper, but I got panic shopped more like potatoes and beets and things I could keep downstairs in case the food ran out. Oh yeah, it's kind of where you go, right?
And that's exactly it. Everybody was panicked and showing these empty shelves. And then again, that snowballs too. That didn't help anything.
No, and showing it over and over,
panicking. And
exactly.
there was no toilet paper to be had then.
Yep.
If you hadn't stocked up prior to that, you weren't getting it for a bit.
Thankfully, I already had a big, huge cache of it. They had a really good sale at one point, so I was like, forgive the term, but covered.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that. The toilet paper humor. Toilet paper humor. Anyway, yeah. So I was in that headspace for quite a while, and I was, having had a history of mental health problems and like severe challenges as I have. I was worried. I was thinking, could I have a relapse and things like that? Because I was institutionalized, as you've heard my story, but just for anybody who obviously hasn't heard it, I after being in a cult, I had a total mental breakdown, and I ended up with multiple diagnoses and being taken in by the police to an institution, institutionalized and heavily medicated for many years. And severe schizophrenia, acute anxiety disorder, severe depression, and trichotillomania, which is the disease where you pull your own hair out and stuff like that. So I was certainly not Facebook profile photo worthy at the time, maybe in that condition, but the journey I had getting out of it was a story in itself that I won't go into in great detail, but I was about to go for electroshock therapy at one point, and the voices in my head stopped, and this one voice said, "No, this is not for you. Go find a shamanic healer." And I didn't really know what it meant, but I declined the treatment because this time, it was the third time I was in an institution. At this time I'd hospitalized myself, so I was able to decline the treatment. And my roommate, who was helping me take care of my son at the time, because I got pregnant during that, in the midst of that craziness, she helped me take care of him, and I was able to, she also found me a shamanic healer that helped me to build to rebuild a foundation that was strong enough, because nothing was working. It was about 7 years I was in it, the severe illness. I had no real foundation on which to build. Like, I tried all kinds of different therapies, but nothing stuck really, because the voices were still there and things like that. And I went to this shamanic healer, and within a year of working with him, I was able to be well enough to take his course and become a shamanic practitioner myself, learn shamanism and become certified in that. So that's kind of, for people who haven't heard my story, I just want to give a little Cole's notes of it. The severity of the illness I had, just to give some perspective, I was working for the government, and they don't give medical retirement to people who are not close to retirement age almost at all. I think I'm the second person that they've done that to. And I still do have, bouts of things. But anyway, I was concerned when COVID hit that I might relapse. And right now I have a very small circle of friends, very small. And my mom, my son, and I are my family. And I'm kind of the head of it, if you want to call it that, because my mom has dementia, and she's in a senior care home. Oh, an amazing one. They have always taken excellent care of her, so I know she's in a good place. But still, if something happened to me, it might be a problem, for my son. My son has ADHD and stuff like that. So it was kind of a stressful place to have all of the COVID, and, the possibility of that was really stressful. So I did, for a while, go into a severe place, and I was worried. But I have, since the illness, discovered, I didn't know I had this passion or anything like that before I was sick, but that I wanted to do film. And there's something about it that when I focus on it, when I actually do it, my soul comes alive, and no matter what's going on outside of me, I have something that I love that I can hold on to. And this kind of, I was reminded of it during the COVID outbreak. I think within about a month and a half to 2 months, something like that, of that happening, I was reminded about, okay, oh yeah, film. And I started to look into taking online courses, reading books, and like doing self-help things and stuff to help myself cope with, the emotional and psychological stuff. And I've also, had people, therapists and stuff like that help me out a bit too. And I started to, like, the film like learning about it and really craft it, like learning how to tell story, how to make it impactful, and what I really wanted to do, like my purpose, why I'm doing it and all that stuff. I started going into it, and I started to like holding on to and learning about film became this, what would it be, nucleus, I guess you could say, something to hold on to, like a toehold that kept me from slipping, you know, and I was able to hold on to it like a life preserver in the times when things got tough, because my mom had an outbreak in her senior home and at one point, and I was like, oh God, my son's been struggling a bit with school and stuff because it's online, because I didn't want him to go to, you know, and but this life preserver of film, this thing that I'm passionate about, even like a tiny little bit of it every day, even if it's 5 minutes, makes a huge difference, because there's something in the world other than the overwhelm. And what I would do is like take little bite-sized pieces of it, because sometimes there's so many things you have to do, all this other stuff, being a mom, being a solo parent, being a caregiver for my mom and stuff like that, like, and all these other stuff, all these responsibilities can be challenging. And to find, even if it's literally 5 minutes, that you actually can say at the end of the day when you're going to bed, I've done something towards my dream, something that I'm passionate about, and there's something to focus on other than the negativity, it can be so huge.
Right.
So,
yeah. Exactly. That's the thing. Moving forward, even if it is baby steps and little steps, just that you are moving forward, because it can be so easy to get you know, just get overwhelmed by all the fear and get into that place where you just want to stay in bed all day because you feel safe there. And with everything that's happening, and you know, like we were saying as well, it's not healthy for you to be consuming the news all day and have the news on and all that negativity just coming at you. It's you need to step back and look at what you can do. And like you say, even just, you know, whatever time, even if you can take only 5 minutes, but you know, moving forward, and this has been a great time for people to learn, because with the internet, everything's there. And as well, so many people have come online offering their services, webinars and workshops and things like that. Even some of the universities had the degree in happiness, and I think it was Yale University or something. So there's been, actually, I found probably in April that it was overwhelming, because I really love personal development, and I was feeling like I just, you know, there's so much that interested me, so many people that were teaching stuff that interested me, that I was signing up for everything, doing these interviews, and then I had like, it was consuming my whole day, but also I didn't have time to process what I've learned. Right. So like I got into a whole overwhelm where I thought I had to step back and figure out what is really important. What do I want to focus on? Because I can't just pick everything that interests me, because there just wasn't enough time in the day. Otherwise, I was as busy. I felt as busy and overwhelmed as I did before we got shut down. So that's what I found. So I had to kind of step back from it.
It's almost like a buffet. If you overeat, you can't necessarily, your system can't process it very well.
Right. True. Yes.
I find one thing that was really important was to, like, exactly what you're saying, to find what really matters, to sort of distill it. What really, when you do it, like what you don't notice the time going by. What is it that what really moves you? And like everybody was binge watching. And I realized, of course, I've binge watched many, many series too, but I realized I can turn it into something productive because it's story, right? And I started watching things and dissecting like bits and pieces of how the story structure goes, especially the ones that I really liked, and what it was for me that spoke to me, and that what I wanted to share with the world and stuff like that. And I think that anyone can and I'm not saying this in a judgmental sort of you should do it kind of thing, but from a loving kind of perspective, find what it is that you really love to do and what it is that you love most about it, and to find ways to build more and more of that into your life in whatever way. You know, if you have to work and do something a little bit different, that's one thing, but just to schedule time to do something. Like Joseph Campbell, the comparative mythologist, have you heard of him?
Yeah, The Hero's Journey.
Yes, exactly. That's the one. He talks about having a sacred space for yourself, even if it's 15-20 minutes a day, that is only you and only the things that you love, especially if you're a parent, and especially in situations like this, to have this little oasis that you go to, that there's no news, there's no anything else other than what you love and what your dreams are and things like that, to sort of incubate that and to give yourself room to breathe. Because that's and to integrate what you've learned, process, and to come back into your life from a perspective of a participant as opposed to a victim, if that makes sense. And again, not in a judgmental way. It's not like, well, you're just playing the victim, because God knows one's mind can go there. But what it is that, you know, to see what's going on in the world, as you're saying, as an opportunity, even though, you know, obviously in perspective, there are horrible things going on in the world. Yeah. Yes. But how we respond to these things is and from an energetic standpoint, when we hold more of a positivity and focus on positivity and on what the potential and possibilities are, we elevate the entire human consciousness on some degree. It's kind of like, you know, warming up the ocean, but still there's the drop is the ocean as well. So the more we inside ourselves start to embrace the truth of who we are and realize that we are souls that are infinite, and our possibilities therefore are also infinite, and to start to go in and do the internal work to help release the things that would tell us that's false or that we can't do, like you doing the self-help things and things like that, to really clear, an energy work or whatever that helps you to clear the misperceptions that you can't, that your dreams are impossible and things like that. Because in a universe where, you know, people who are so driven they can make billions of dollars, like, you know, Bill Gates or whatever, he's a human being. He's no different than any of us. He just happens to have stayed with something and believed in it himself, and it so strongly that he got that. I hope that makes sense. I'm not trying to say that, you know, everybody's a Bill Gates, but what it is for you that your soul was here to do is infinite. It's not limited by what you were born as, what your social background is, what your gender, your race, your sexual orientation, or any of that stuff. None of that could determine your potential. And this particular time, I believe, has been I think we were talking about this just before the recording, how this has been a time of opportunity for so many people to explore what they really are, who they are, and how they want to share and show up in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And also the other thing is too, it's you're not limited by what you were told as a kid either, because that's another thing, right? What you're told growing up. And and when we grew up, it was a totally different world than what it is now. When you just look at the technology alone, we didn't have the internet. So like, it's night and day, right? The difference is unbelievable. But the thing that I have been thinking about as well is, look how quickly everything got shut down. And just think, a year ago, if somebody told you that this could happen, that everything would be shut down in like 2 days or whatever, and all of downtown Toronto would, all of a sudden, all the banks and the insurance companies and the government, like, there'd be nobody there, they'd all be working from home in a matter of days, you would have said no way. And like, that Las Vegas would be shut down and would be empty. So you can't, like, there's no such thing as can't. I just use that word too, but there's no such thing as can't. You know, really, the whole perspective, if you flip it around to, instead of shutting everything down, creating something new and creating something different, you know, to think that could be done. There were always excuses. I mean, you'd always have excuses in your head why things couldn't be shut down. But when something happens to this extent, then like, it's possible. Everything's possible. Anything's possible.
Absolutely.
And with the technology that we have now, so many things can be created out of it. There's so much possibility, and there's no more, you know, you shouldn't have the limited thinking that we might have had, especially going back to things that you're told, you know, growing up, and society says you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. You have to follow this path, and not necessarily being what, you know, you end up, and I'm sure some people have found during this time, when everything, all the distractions are removed, that they followed what society did, and they're, you know, in a 9-to-5 job or something like that, where it's just like a robot, just not doing what makes them feel
alive.
Not what they're passionate about, and everything like that, just because this is what society says. And look at the education system as well. It's in need of a major overhaul, like everything is. The healthcare system, the education system, corporate system. It's showing everyone now that, you know, you don't have to go into an office and work 9 to 5. And everybody doesn't have to all be there. Things don't have to go that way.
Absolutely. It's like the world has been put on pause for a reason. I really believe, and even though ostensibly on the surface, for sure, there, I mean, not to minimize, but there is an opportunity here. And not to frighten people in any way, shape, or form, but the reason, I'm just going to tilt my screen, the reason why I ended up joining the cult was because I was in a job that I hated. I'm a creative soul, right? And I was in a job, certainly, like, clerical work is vital. It makes a company thrive and stuff like that. It's absolutely essential. And it's not to minimize or diminish anything about it. But for me, as a job, for a good fit, personality, and whatever creative, or talent wise, or abilities and stuff like that, it's like one of the worst fits you could get. I mean, I'm an artist and I'm a creative soul, and to have something that's the same thing every day, is an anathema, or whatever the word is. But that was what drove me, because I was in this job that was like, it was feeding my stomach and starving my soul. So, and again, not to frighten people, to say that they're going to go into this kind of situation that I went into with the mental illness and stuff, or into the cult, but to find that kernel that I was talking about, that we all have in us, the passion that, like, no matter what it is, even if it's crocheting or cooking or carpentry or anything, computer science, 3D printing, whatever, really brings something out of you, that the sort of breadcrumb trail to the compass of your soul, that'll direct you to and help you find what it is you're here to do. To explore that, I think, is at this particular time, especially in human history, it's so essential and so wonderful that we have, you know, the ability to do that, and, you know, to help to take our selves through the inward journey of finding what it is that has been programmed into us, what we've come to believe that limit us, and to realize and see the truth that it is only smoke and mirrors. It's just projections that other people and, you know, historical traditions and things like that have brought upon us.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, yes, it's kind of like when I did work at the bank, and I would question some of the operations and the processes, and the standard answer was always, well, that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
And you know, as you know, anytime that somebody would push that envelope further and say, well, that doesn't make sense, let's see what we can do, and then you fix the process and you make it more efficient. It's like, well, why didn't I do that before? It's just like in your house, sometimes you might move something around and think, well, why didn't I do that earlier, like years ago? Why did I sit here in this house for 5 years or something? Yeah, I didn't like this, but I never, you know, moved it. So it's the same idea. And this like pause, as you're saying, really, we need, you know, combining technology and what we can do, as opposed to being afraid of technology, which so many people are afraid of technology, and the whole concept that the robots are going to take over the world. And if we, you know, if we embrace technology too much and we let, you know, let there be too much advancement. But the fact is that let's figure out a way to use technology for good, for the repetitive processes.
Exactly.
And have, you know, and spend more time on creative processes. And that's actually something that I've been reading a lot about as well, about how creativity is going to be so important going forward. Anyone with creativity, you know, skills from a creative basis, it's going to be something that is really in demand, because we need to create. This is going to be the time to create.
Exactly.
Hopefully, I mean, like, let's hope that we don't just shift back into our old processes.
I've read a lot of stuff, and I've studied so much of Joseph Campbell's work. It's a huge passion of mine. And and another person named Richard Rudd, he wrote this book called The Gene Keys. He has a whole bunch of stuff around it I find fascinating. It's a combination of the I Ching, Western astrology, and something called human design. So it's like psychology, spirituality, and also the I Ching, which is the Book of Changes, the ancient Chinese Book of Changes, which has a lot of wisdom, and it's very potent. And all of those things are pointing to the same thing that Joseph Campbell, Richard Rudd works, and all of the stuff that my guides in my shamanic work have been telling me is that there's going to be this, and we're at that point right now, where there's a fork. You can see it in the United States, where there's a divergence of two completely different mentalities. The one of the way of evolution, and the way of, I guess, Joseph Campbell calls, I think, Richard Rudd calls devolution. The people kind of like the dinosaurs, or actually more appropriately, I guess, the Neanderthals versus the Homo erectus, or whatever it was, the Homo sapiens eventually evolved out of. It's like an evolutionary branch where one will die and the other will go on, because our planet, with what we're headed into, must creativity must be part of it, and also collaboration as opposed to competition. And that's the feminine and masculine energies, and we all have them. It's not like because I'm a woman I have only feminine energy. I have both, and it's a balance in all of us globally, like on a massive Carl Jung refers to as the collective unconscious. It's like the left brain has been so strongly in all of our systems, all of the way we've been thinking with the things that are considered right, and what true leadership has to be alpha, yang, and stuff like that.
Right.
The yin is like, instead of having it all masculine or all feminine, it's right now we're coming to a point, my guidance is all that, and all that stuff is telling me, is where the two meet one another and merge. As opposed to being, I have to be a woman and I have to be like this, or I'm gay, I have to be this, or I'm this race or this ethnicity or whatever, I have to follow these certain parameters. It's like these energies are balancing one another. We are all human, and that and our souls transcend any of those, what would you call it, labels, because they don't define us, they describe us. And it's beautiful and wonderful. Anything that you physically are as a human being can be celebrated, and totally should be. But also to recognize that the soul is more powerful and trumps all of those things. Sorry, that's not a good word. Goes over, or whatever. Wins out over. It essentially, that's what my heart is telling me, that we're headed for a human family, as opposed to factions where, you know, people fight with each other for limited resources and stuff. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox.
I totally agree. I've never seen so much judgment on Facebook since March, that this has been the only time when I've gone in to physically uncheck and unfollow people and delete people. I never bothered before. I just you know, it wasn't a priority. But some of the judgment that I have seen and the divisiveness is crazy, right? As we know. I have never seen such a divided society in my life. And so, but on the flip side, when we I've never seen so much community coming together.
Yes.
With people offering to get groceries for the seniors.
Yes.
Neighborhoods coming together, like people actually talking to their neighbors as they were going walking back in the spring. Collaborations, as you're talking about, between business entrepreneurs putting on, you know, online summits or workshops or anything like that. That is something definitely that I agree in the future, collaboration. And there's no such, and I also have always believed there's no such thing as competition. That there's enough out there for everybody, and there's people for everybody. There's, depending on who you are, you will attract people to you, and there's enough business to go around.
Absolutely.
The, you know, competition, even just worrying about competition or talking about competition, comes from a fear-based scarcity mindset. Absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, exactly. So that's, and if you get in that again, it just spirals into more, like you attract what you think about, right? So you think about there's not enough business, and then you just you'll just keep going down. And so it's not so I think community and collaboration are something that, just also this whole thing happening from a global basis, right? The whole world all at once, and this has given us the chance to connect with and have conversations with people across the world.
And we wouldn't have had that if this, you know, the negativity was going on, like this whole COVID thing. If it wasn't happening, we haven't been talking to a lot of the people, that because we were so like with blinders on, headlong, rushing through our days and stuff like that. Like this has given us the pause to be able to sort of look around ourselves and look at the world and reevaluate what's important to us, you know, and what matters.
Exactly. And a lot of people have had they find that even though we're not meeting in person and we're doing, you know, this through Zoom or whatever meeting technology you might use, people have had deeper conversations, much more meaningful conversations than if you were to go to a networking event where you would talk about the, you know, the weather or the drive there and the traffic or something, something like that. Now it's much more meaningful conversations. And I know same thing has happened for me as well. So it's just, again, because the distractions were removed and it was the stop like that and the pause like that, it just really gave us a chance to sit and be. Actually, the one woman that I had an interview, she has a 2-year-old, and she said that this gave her a chance to actually be a mom, as opposed to before where she was doing a mom. And I was thinking, what you know, what are you talking about? But it's like she was doing a mom, being that she was thinking, you know, rushing her daughter to daycare, rushing back home to pick her up, and rushing around and thinking like, I got to feed you and I got to bathe you and you got to get to bed by this time and blah, blah, blah. And now she actually had the chance to sit and actually enjoy her daughter more and just be with her, just sit with her. Whereas before it was always the rushing. So it's the same thing with ourselves. We had the chance to sit with ourselves, and a lot of people didn't like that because they didn't, you know, that wasn't something they did. And so we've really had the chance to come up with what your values are and what's important to you. And on the creativity side of things, a lot of people have talked about just going back to your childhood. What did you enjoy doing as a kid? And you stopped doing because
you had to adult, as they say.
Basically. And you know,
it's like there's this, and it's true, because we were kind of, again, all that programming and stuff like that we've been taught. And you know, there's no judgment from me for people who have that happen to them, because it's so ingrained in us. And I know I've done a lot of work on myself and it still comes up. I mean, I've had to do so much crazy work since the mental breakdown to rebuild my foundations and stuff like that. And I found so many like deeply painful stuff in from, and it's not our parents' fault. It's because they were programmed the same way, and like all of the people around us and stuff, they're trying to come at things either from an unconscious perspective or from the things that they believe are really harmful to you, that they project onto you and stuff like that. But they're coming from a place of, I want to help you because I'm afraid that this is going to happen to you and stuff. And to have all of that fear, at first it was almost like, what's that stuff called? There's a certain type of medicine that uses micro doses of something to help, release stuff. Oh God, I forgot the name of it, but it's like you have this dose of something to help you to the pain or whatever is there for a reason to tell you that something needs to change. And that's why when we all had that moment of that the lockdown and stuff like that, and all the fear that arose from it, it's like all the places that were injured in us started to really speak and like, ow, ow, ow. Yeah. And we were able to choose to start exploring that and starting to find out what it is that's behind it, rather than just blaming ourselves or seeing the world as like that things are impossible, like we were talking about, like we're all victims of an an indifferent universe or whatever. And it's so not that. It's like the more gentle we can be with ourselves, and the more we can realize that everything has happened as an opportunity, everything in our lives, to pivot from the place of things happening to us as opposed to happening for us.
Right. Yes, exactly. And that's true. A lot, anything that was there before we got shut down has magnified in so many manners. And that's why we've seen, a lot of relationships that have dissolved because all of a sudden everybody's at home, and others where the family has become much closer knit, and having a better relationship. And then at the other side of things, there's the whole mental health side of it, which is, especially for people who are isolated and alone, it's been quite challenging, for sure. So I think now I've lost my train of thought, but yeah. So it's hard to. We've been through a lot. It's been an emotional roller coaster, really, and that's what I was going to talk about too. Yeah, we're always the first to judge ourselves, and always have the negative self-talk and everything like that. And so that's the one thing that we need to remember, is that we just to give ourselves grace, that this isn't an easy time, and it has been up and down. I know for myself, I think when I think back to March when I started doing these, it was like I thought, okay, I'm going to do this like during this time, maybe it'll be 2 months, and then it's going to be over. Yeah. And now, of course, we're past 8 months, and now we know it's like we're almost done 2020, which is another thing that's hard to believe. Yes. So we're continuing. It's still an emotional roller coaster. So we have to give ourselves grace, and that we are doing the best we can, and that we are, and self-care as well is very important. Like you were saying about the sacred space and having the time for yourself. We need that as well to, you need to look after yourself so that you can look after others. Exactly. Especially for us women, moms.
That analogy of the air mask in the plane. If you don't put yours on, you can't help other people if you die, right? If you're not able to function, right? And again, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of self-love. And it's probably a massively overused term in some ways, and perhaps sometimes misinterpreted, but self-love is self-care, and beginning to find the things that you actually love. Sorry, that's my dog Poppy.
I know. I see.
Poppy girl. The things that we actually come to love things, and discover the things that we love about ourselves, because there's so much that we have been focused on, probably like in the bounce, and having gone through the schizophrenia, it was like I had the chorus of voices constantly in my head telling me these things that I hated about myself. My journey has led me through finding and like discovering what it is that's beautiful about myself, that's from inside of me. Like I'm a good this, a good that. Like I really love poetry. I love communicating from my soul what I've gone through to share with other people to help their lives better, to see things from a different perspective, or things like that. And I love that about myself. Or to find out, like you're an amazing mom, that, your child has this person who can hold them in a way that, they know that no matter what happens to them, you'll be there for them. Or like there's every one of us has something they can start with, again, like that little granule, like that little nucleus, because we are like, our souls are so, like, I used to do shamanic healing work, and I got the opportunity, like the privilege, to see what a person's soul actually looks like in some of the work that I did. And every single time I did that particular type of work, I was moved to tears, to such a degree that I would come out almost blubbering, because it's so pure and beautiful. And we're all that at this core of ourselves. It's just we've heaped upon ourselves so much illusion of negativity, of limitation, of ugliness and stuff like that. That's not there, because what we are is so magnificent, pure, beautiful, and absolutely mesmerizing that we don't even realize.
Right, exactly. So much. And again, it's the self-judgment. It's what society has told us that we're supposed to do, look like, etc. And yeah, all of that, it's not important. We are, each one of us is unique, and each one of us can do huge, immense things, really.
Exactly.
And I think we're going to see that, well, we need to just spread love, right? Love and kindness, and create this new world that is so much more, where everybody's celebrating a meaningful life together.
Yes. No matter what you look like, no matter what any description is, because we are these infinite, beautiful, magnificent, pure souls. We're not even like, I mean, we're these souls living in a human container, and the container doesn't define what potential a soul has. I mean, it's the vehicle through which you experience your life. That's it. It doesn't matter. You matter. Like you are is the soul. And that's what has the infinite potential and infinite power.
Right. Yes. I think that's a great way to end this off with that messaging. So thank you so much for giving me your time, and I will put your information up underneath this interview as well. You're currently working on your so you said that you had the draft of your manuscript.
Yes, I have the rough draft. I also have a store that I'm just in the process of opening, that's called Sacred Eros Poetry Art. It's a combination of my artwork and my poetry.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see the painting very well, but that's the piece up in the up there.
Oh, and then there's some words underneath.
Yeah, there's poetry in it. Anyway, that's another project that I'm doing. But yeah, the film is my primary focus. Pun intended.
Okay. Yes. All right. Well, that's again, thank you so much, and I look forward to the next time we can get together in person. And,
oh my God.
Yeah, and I will put up your information. Is your store going to be, you're still working on the store, or is the link active on it?
I'm still working on it, but I'm planning on launching it within 2 weeks from today. I want to make sure. Yeah.
Yes. All right. That's great. So I'll put your information. Thank you again. And it was great talking to you.
Likewise. It was fun. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It was a fun conversation. I loved it.
Yes. Thank you.